the Geneva Center for Security Policy for this year's 2021 Innovation Prize. I'm going to hand you over straight to GCSP Director, Ambassador Thomas Greminger, to introduce the members of the jury for this year's prize.
Thank you very much, Paul. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends, welcome also to those that haven't been with us for the webinar before. By the way, a highly insightful exercise, I must say. So I would like to open the prize ceremony now, and I would like to do so by first providing you with some background information. As I mentioned at the outset, the first edition of the GCSP Prize for Innovation in Global Security took place in 2015. Until 2019, the prize would seek to reward the most inspiring, innovative, and groundbreaking contribution of the year. In 2020, then we inaugurated a new format by putting not just one, but 3 projects in the spotlight for their innovative approaches to addressing international security challenges. This year, we received 113 submissions from 6 continents, spanning various fields and formats, and I'm delighted that we will announce soon who this year's winners are. But I would first like to extend a heartfelt and warm thank you to our distinguished jury for their contributions. This year, the jury, and you see it on the slide, the jury was composed of Ambassador Nadine Olivieri, the head of the Division for International Security within the State Secretariat of the Swiss FDFA in Bern, Lieutenant General André Blattmann, the former chief of the Swiss Armed Forces, Ms. Angela Kane, Senior Fellow at the Vienna Center for Disarmament and Non-Proliferation, Professor Jane Royston, entrepreneur and member of the Swiss Science Council, Ms. Laureen Anderson, founder and CEO of LC Anderson International Consulting and former FBI executive, Professor Nayef Al-Rodhan, head of GCSP's Geopolitics and Global Future Programs and honorary fellow at the St. Anthony's College of Oxford University, and myself. Again, thank you to all the jury members for their support of our initiative. It wouldn't have been possible without you. Back to you, Paul.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Greminger. Now, another word from Professor Nayef Al-Rodhan.
Thank you, Paul. Once again, my great gratitude to Ambassador Thomas Greminger for his tremendous support for this prize and for what we do in our program. Tremendous thanks to the jury who really work extremely hard to review the finalist 15 applicants. It's hard work, and we're very privileged to have their expertise, distinction, and dedication. Really tremendous work. The prize was initiated in 2015, as Ambassador Greminger had said, and it was to reflect the DNA of GCSP in terms of innovation and cutting-edge ideas in global security, and also reflect our own programs, ideas in pushing the frontiers of global security through multidisciplinary analysis. Where in our program, we look at it from international relations aspects, security, cultural studies, disruptive technologies, neuroscience, and even philosophical analysis. This year, as mentioned, as in previous years, we've had more than 100 applicants. This year, 113 to be precise, from 6 continents. Very grateful for the momentum the prize has generated over the last 6 years. and we look forward to further growth down the line. Back to you, Paul.
Thank you, Professor Al-Rodhan. Well, before we announce the winners of the 2021 Innovation Prize, I'm also pleased to announce the winners for this year's prize draw, which are free places to the next Geopolitics and Global Future Symposium 2022. Please note that it's scheduled for the dates from 19th to 21st October 2022. So the third prize, which consists in a free seat, one module, 1 day at the symposium, the winner is Miss Elena Talavera. Congratulations. The second prize, which offers 2 modules at the symposium, the winner is Miss Sofia Pavlatou. Congratulations. And the first prize, so 3 days at the symposium, the winner is Mr. Elek Verkoyen. Congratulations. And now, with all due haste, the announcement of the 2021 Innovation Prize winners. So it's my particular honor to announce the team and the project who have won the 3rd place in this draw, and it consists in earning a GCSP Certificate of Recognition. The winner is SLAFKA, Nuclear Safeguards Powered by Blockchain, was submitted by Dr. Cindy Vestergaard of the Stimson Center, Washington, D.C. Congratulations to you. Unfortunately, the team's representatives could not join us live at this time today for the award ceremony. So if you'll please allow me, I'll briefly read from their presentation project to tell you what it's about. SLAFKA is a first-of-its-kind prototype that uses distributed ledger technology, so DLT, also known as blockchain technology, for tracking nuclear material at the national level. Given that many of the challenges in nuclear material accounting are fundamentally problems of data reconciliation, data integrity, and provenance, this prototype demonstrates how DLT can be used to validate data trustworthiness and increase efficiencies in reporting information sharing. We will now hear from Mr. Brian Finley, CEO and the president of the Stimson Center, who's kindly centered this pre-recorded video message on behalf of the team.
Good afternoon. I'm deeply grateful to the Geneva Center for this recognition, which I accept on behalf of the Stimson Center and the director of our Blockchain in Practice program, Dr. Cindy Vestergaard. Over the course of the past 2 years, Dr. Vestergaard has worked to build the world's first blockchain prototype for safeguarding nuclear material at the national level. SLAFKA, as it is known, is a joint project of the Stimson Center, Finland's Radiation and Nuclear Safety Authority, STUK, and the University of New South Wales in Australia. SLAFKA demonstrates that distributed ledger technology, the blockchain, has the potential to increase efficiency, trust, and transparency in the management of nuclear safeguards information. Of course, long-term data integrity is especially challenging for spent nuclear fuel placed in underground storage. Finland is currently focused on this challenge as it is constructing the world's first geological repository of spent nuclear fuel. SLAFKA has shown that DLT technologies can assist with the inefficiencies in nuclear safeguards management around the world, while maintaining the confidentiality of nuclear accounting information of material above and below the ground. Stimson's Blockchain in Practice program is among the first to engage with international non-proliferation disarmament organizations, national authorities, and private technology companies on the potential application of DLT to strengthen the international security regime. I congratulate Cindy Vestergaard and again thank the Geneva Center for bestowing this honor.
So once again, congratulations to SLAFKA and the Stimson Center project team for this 3rd place. I will now hand you over to Professor Nayef Al-Rodhan to announce the winners of 2nd place.
Thank you, Paul. It is my distinct pleasure to announce the name of the project that won the second place in this year 2021 GCSP Prize for Innovation in Global Security competition. And the project is entitled Civilian Protection First, Civilians Harm Tracking. And it was submitted by Mr. Matthew Elias from the Center for Civilians in Conflict in Washington, D.C.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sergii Doma. I'm a senior military advisor of the Center for Civilians in Conflict in Ukraine. So I will represent my organization. And first of all, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the Geneva Center for Security Policy for this recognition of our efforts. We at Civic envision a world where no civilians become casualty in the armed conflict. And striving for such a high aim, we strengthen the resolve and capacity of the armed actors and the military in order to prevent and to respond to civilian harm. Here in Ukraine, this mechanism called Civilian Casualty Tracking Provisional Group was developed and established within the armed forces in order to identify every single case when civilians were harmed as related to the armed conflict. And as a result, we could find several, even months, when no single casualty was identified by this mechanism. We hope that in future, such mechanisms, in order for the military to understand the causes and to prevent further civilian casualties, will be used throughout the world. So once again, thanks to the GCSP for this prize. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Doma, and to your congratulations as well to your civics team for this second place. I'll now pass you to Ambassador Thomas Greminger, the director of the GCSP, to announce the first place winner of this year's GCSP Innovation in Global Security Prize.
Thank you, Paul. And the winner is the 2021 GCSP Prize for Innovation in Global Security goes to CyberPeace Builders, submitted by Ms. Ottavia Galuzzi, Mr. Alexandru Lazar, Mr. Fabien Leimgruber, and Mr. Adrien Ogee of the CyberPeace Institute in Geneva. They win a certificate of excellence, a prize trophy, as well as 10,000 Swiss francs. Congratulations, bravo.
Well, Ambassador and Professor, thank you very much. It's really an honor for the CyberPeace Institute as a whole to receive this prize. I'm very proud of what we've accomplished and what the entire team that you have there represented, but also a lot of people in the institute and in the NGO economy, sector, and also in the private sector that have really helped to shape up the CyberPeace Builders. We have a very short video that we would like to show right now, and then I'll let Ottavia and Alex, who are there today as well, say a few words. Thank you very much again. Thanks a lot. Yeah, again, thank you very much. And you know, just wanting to also give the floor to the rest of the team so they can also be present and, you know, share this prize with us. Ottavia, maybe you want to say a few words?
Yeah, absolutely. So hi everybody. Thanks a lot for this prize. Is an honor to receive it. It has been a long journey for us to arrive where we are today, but it's a major satisfaction to work with so many stakeholders and be able to help so many NGOs. So I just want to say that this prize should also go to all the companies, volunteers, and NGOs we're working with in relation to the CyberPeace Builders. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for this award. Very humbled and honored to be here among you. All I can do is just to reinforce what Ottavia and Adrien already said, and to underline the need of these NGOs for cybersecurity support to help them build their infrastructure. And that's why we're here, to make sure that they have this security and that they can deliver critical services in the field. Thank you very much.
Well, I think it falls to me then to, of course, once again thank all of the members of the jury who've participated in judging this year's prize. Congratulate the 3 winning teams they have selected. We'll now move on to a part returning, of course, to all of these winning teams and their representatives who have kindly joined with us this evening to talk a little bit more about their projects and so on. So of course to our viewers as well as for the webinar, it should be possible for you to submit questions through the Q&A function. If we should run out of time at the end of the discussion with the 2 teams and your question had not yet been asked, don't worry, it will be shared with the winners and it will be included in a follow-up written interview. So to begin with, of course, I'll return to our 2021 winners of the first prize, CyberPeace Builders. My first question to you would be can you elaborate a little bit more on what is the main mission of CyberPeace Builders?
Sure. Thanks a lot for the question and the opportunity to talk about what we do at the Institute. So the CyberPeace Builders mission is, simply put, to bring expertise to where it's most needed, and in particular cybersecurity expertise to the humanitarian sector. So in doing so, of course, we want to help these NGOs improve their resilience when it comes to cyber attacks so that they can continue delivering the critical services that they offer in the field, as Alex was just mentioning. But we also want to do this in a very systemic and long-term way, whereby we want to, in doing so, document the harms that are done to human life through cyber attacks, which are very difficult to document when you're working with the traditional, private sector or government actors. And so working with NGOs, we're really trying to shed light on the most critical harms done to people in cyberspace so that we can discuss the right structural solutions later on. So the Institute, the CyberPeace Institute is an NGO that was created 2 years ago here in Geneva, which is a global NGO that we're here in the capital of peace. We really serve every country in the world and work with NGOs around the world. And we are also independent, right? And we really aspire to build cyberpeace by increasing accountability, in the notion of accountability in cyberspace, which is shedding light on good practices, but also bad practices online and trying to find solution against these. So we're working with decision makers at the United Nations level, but also in the corporate sector to find structural solutions where could be new norms, better international regulation, but also simply better services and tools for the most vulnerable, so that we can shape a better cyberspace, of course, for the most vulnerable, but also for you, for parents or kids, for pretty much every single citizen that hops online. So the CyberPeace Builders really connects well with that overall global mission, because it documents basically the harms done to the most vulnerable, and feeds that into the machine of the Institute to really do better advocacy work and push for better structural solutions at the political level.
Well, you've alluded to the fact that you have a dynamic team. So, of course, perhaps you would like to elaborate a little bit on the composition of your team and perhaps some of the partners you've associated with in your work.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks a lot. I feel very fortunate. I've been in cybersecurity for 15 years and have had the privilege to work with great professionals. But the team that's currently at the Institute is really like world class. So we're about 30 people. We have 13 different nationalities. We have more women than men for a cybersecurity organization. So we have a good gender balance, which is unusual, unfortunately, in our profession. And we aspire to change that a little bit as well. And it's really a great working environment. And this award goes really to the Institute as a whole and all of our partners. And there's been so many efforts from literally every single employee of the CyberPeace Institute to bring that project to fruition today. So really, very happy and proud to be working with all of them. In particular, in the team, so you've met Ottavia, who's actually one of the very first employees of the CyberPeace Institute. She's been there literally from day one, and saw the Institute grow so much in the last 2 years, and she's been instrumental to that. So she's an amazing professional, and really like helped structure the little team that we have. She's really the one that brings a lot of structure to what we do. Alex joined recently. I think he worked a little bit with you in the past as well, and has also a background in cyber, and really brings all of his energy and enthusiasm to the table, and really is like one of the most active professionals I've ever met. Like he's very, very enthusiastic, which is really helpful for what we're trying to do. So as a regional advisor and community builder, he's in the forefront with Ottavia, engaging with NGOs, and I think they love him because we're getting very good traction, very good feedback. We have also Fabien, who unfortunately isn't here today because he had planned to be on holiday this week, and he would have loved to be there, but he's unfortunately in a remote location with no internet access, and so he couldn't join. But Fabien has also been here from the very beginning of the CyberPeace Builders, and has been instrumental in driving this forward. He comes from the International Committee of the Red Cross, who has such a fascinating understanding of the reality of cybersecurity in the humanitarian sector, and is super active. He worked for Kudelski, a Swiss cybersecurity firm before, so really brings so much to the team and the table, and he's also like a very dynamic and very happy individual. So I don't know, I'm just very fortunate to be working with them, and I think that this prize is also a testament of the incredible spirit that goes in the team and the Institute. And then I think it's also, this prize also goes, as Ottavia is mentioning, to everyone else that's been involved in this uphill battle against cyber criminals. And we have a number of partners that are supporting the Institute. So obviously our founders from Microsoft, the Hewlett Foundation, MasterCard, but we also have companies that are actively supporting us in the CyberPeace Builders, like Rapid7. We have a company, US Medical IT in the US, that has been working with us for almost 2 years now and doing a great job. We have Zendata right here in Geneva, working with us in the CyberPeace Builders. We have CyberSolace in the UK. We have a number of other companies that are supporting, like I think I mentioned Rapid7, Telefonica as well, companies that are actively supporting the project and giving us volunteer time, which is really essential. And we're continuing our outreach and continuing to bring in more and more companies and volunteers. So it's a booming community. And then obviously all of the NGOs, whose identity I'm not going to mention here because that would be an easy target list. So it's also part of what the builders do. We're very protective of who the NGOs we help are. And if they want to talk about their engagement with us, that's fine. They're in control. They can do so, of course, no problem. But we're not going to be the ones mentioning that. But there's obviously a number of NGOs here in Geneva we're working with There's 750 NGOs in the capital of peace, and many of them, if not most of them, have cybersecurity needs and have found a great value in the CyberPeace Builders, obviously for the ability to engage with experts from the private sector and help with security education, help with incident recovery and things like that, but also very much because it helps them to connect between each other. So cybersecurity staff or IT staff from various NGOs here in Geneva and around the world as we grow are able to interact with each other, which creates local ecosystems, local trust ecosystems, which is really the long-term solution to the cybersecurity challenges that many of them face.
Well, of course, your video, of course, explained how your aim is to help the NGOs mitigate their vulnerability to cyber attacks through the expertise. And bearing in mind, of course, what you've just told us about, of course, the need not to expose them to any targeting. Is it possible for you to elaborate a little bit on the risks that the NGOs face from such attacks?
Absolutely, yeah. So first of all, NGOs, many of the NGOs we work with have been delivering their services in the physical world for decades, if not centuries. And it's only very recent that they've started to digitize a lot of their operations, right? So there's a lot of added risks to their physical operations just because they've introduced technology a lot more in their operations. And so part of the risks they face is simply coming from an increase in their risk exposure, right? Which was not necessarily the case before. Now, a lot of the NGOs don't realize this, and unfortunately, many of those we talk to tell us, but why should I even be concerned? Like, why would someone be interested in what we do? They don't realize that they sit first on donations, right? That's how NGOs work. So they sit on money. Money is of interest to criminals. The humanitarian sector raises about 30 billion annually. The entire NGO economy represents about $1 trillion annually, and that's a lot of money that's of interest to criminals, unfortunately. So just the fact that they're taking money from donors puts them at risk. And we've helped NGOs who've had more than $1 million in funding stolen from them, just because they were not able to implement proper cybersecurity measures. And I'm so sorry for the background noise. My kids are back from school, and apparently the day didn't go as well as mine. Then the second thing is a lot of NGOs actually sit on sensitive data, whether it's patient health information because they're dealing with clinical trials or things like that, or it's actually sensitive information about armed groups or terrorist groups or conflict zones that are of interest to political actors, or it's just sensitive data around the nature of the work they do, like if they are active in the field of disinformation or protecting human rights defenders or journalists. Well, states may be interested in their activities. And so oftentimes they don't realize the value of the data that they sit on. And that is also a risk in itself, right? The lack of security awareness of both the leadership and the employees, given the appetite for bad actors for the data or the funds that they manage. So there's unfortunately a number of attacks that we have seen. There's what we didn't see in the past was ransomware attacks against NGOs, and that's unfortunately something that's coming to the forefront with criminals realizing that it's a very cost-efficient way for them to steal money. CEO fraud attacks are still very common, inserting themselves in the conversations, email conversations, and asking CFOs and financial teams to wire out some money. So that's still unfortunately going on. And then nastier attacks, like we've seen last year with supply chain attacks, so basically attacking the technology providers of NGOs to then attack them, or even attacking trusted sources like USAID, which is a big American donor, state-sponsored donor, was attacked last year and leveraged as a legitimate or as a true vantage point to attack over 150 NGOs after. So those are worrying. It's a worrying trend, and unfortunately, we're not seeing this trend getting better anytime soon, which calls for services, from like the NGO sector, like we're doing with the CyberPeace Builders, but not only that, right? It calls for structural solutions. It calls for high-level discussions with CEOs and decision makers in different capitals around the world.
Mm-hmm. My final question is, an elaboration on this as well, because I understand you use a particular platform to interact with NGO staff, and is this part of your innovative method? How is it that you make use of it to further your mission?
Yeah, absolutely. So the institute as a whole is quite an innovative working environment, and I really invite you and everyone listening to this to check out our website and go and see for yourself. Like, we have other platforms beyond the CyberPeace Builders. We have the Cyber Incident Tracer, where you can get a lot of very interesting data science on healthcare cybersecurity attacks and how unfortunately attackers are able to impact human life very directly. So go and check that, to see other innovative products that we've launched in the last 2 years. But essentially, the CyberPeace Builders revolve around a cooperation platform that's similar to Slack, if you're familiar with Slack, except that we use a German provider that's a lot more secure than Slack, has better security features, uses zero trust, for instance, between the different rooms, so information between different NGOs don't leak to each other. Volunteers, when they hop on the platform, don't have access to the full list of NGOs we're helping. So they're not able, to, if they were ill-intentioned, have basically a target list. So we're very mindful of that. And basically, the platform main use case is a job board where we list different security needs of NGOs that we talk to, and volunteers are able to understand what is needed from them, what is the duration of the task, what are the skills required, and then they're able to simply manifest their interest, and that allows us to then operate a match between the volunteer or the volunteers, right? Some of the tasks may require multiple volunteers from different, even from different companies. And then we match them with the NGO. We bring them to a particular room where they can walk with the NGO, have access to all the information that's been collected with the NGO, all the previous tasks that were done by other builders. They don't start from scratch, there's continuity. And then they're able basically to do what they need to do using video conferencing solutions from the platform or other more complex security tools when needed. But the platform is also very much appreciated by our community because it puts people together. We're not pretending that we're going to be like social media or anything like that. But when it comes to fostering very close, trusted relationships between cybersecurity professionals and like-minded professionals, it's great to be able to have a small community where volunteers from different companies can get to know each other and figure out how do you do this? How do you do this? How do you explain to second factor authentication to NGOs? Like, I've been struggling to make these guys understand and keep like using it. What do you do? And then this exchange of information is really valuable for the employees and the companies, and it's a great also training opportunity. So the platform is a great vector also for that. And then if you think about the NGOs, and I think I mentioned that earlier in the discussion, it's a great way to foster connection between multiple NGOs and ensure some kind of ecosystem security. I think it was Professor earlier who mentioned this idea of multi-SAM security, and really the idea of securing each other out. And if you foster those communities, it's a very familiar concept in cybersecurity spheres, for instance, in the United States around these ISACs, information sharing centers. Well, having the ability for these points of contacts in different NGOs to exchange information on threats that they're facing, on things that they're seeing happening, it gives basically early warning indicators to everyone else in the community. So it fosters resilience, basically collective resilience.
Well, thank you very much, Adrien, to Ottavia and Alexandru for joining us. And we'll perhaps return to you if there are a few additional questions
Sure.
to you. It's also time to meet our second prize winners from Civilian Protections First, or otherwise known as Civics. represented by Mr. Sergii Doma. So, of course, congratulations once again. My first question to you would be about, of course, the business of civilian harm tracking, or what we'll refer to as CHT mechanisms. I understand they're quite rare. So how does Civic's innovative approach to CHT allow better monitoring?
Thank you for this question. Actually, the mechanism per se of civilian harm tracking has not a particular, there is nothing particularly innovative in that, because civilian casualty recording is a very populous thing, which is done by the NGOs throughout the world. And the only thing missing was that this function will be undertaken, and this responsibility will be undertaken by those who bring this harm to civilians, meaning the armed actors. And the history of our organization's involvement in this issue dates back to the experience in Afghanistan and Somalia in 2009, 2010. But afterwards, here in Ukraine, for instance, we started this initiative back then in 2018, trying to explain to the military, to the armed forces, the strategic value of their civilian harm tracking, and with the ultimate goal to prevent harm, or if this harm already occurred, to respond to it. And the design that we developed and suggested to the military, we tried to make it as simple, but at the same time as sufficient as possible, in order to the military to understand the trends, the places where it happens, and to analyze that these trends, some correlations in what is going on. And of course, the most important thing, what we try to explain to the military, so that this analysis will become the ground to adjust the tactics of the military, in order to for them to change those things which were previously harmful to civilians. So that is the idea, like three key things: data collection, analysis, and change of the practices, change of the tactics.
Thanks. So, in fact, your innovative approach does differ from other monitoring programs. That's what you're explaining.
Probably the only, like, what we're really pursued here, so that these practices are supposed to become the part of the routine work of the military, so that they will understand the importance of this topic. Because, you know, the military, they traditionally put their own like purely military stuff above anything, and now it was the issue of convincing them that in the current world, civilian casualties is not something inevitable. So in any possible situation, the military have this opportunity in order to find the best way how to deal with this or that situation. And that's probably that we have managed to explain, and to have the armed forces like having this really understanding really the value, so that the protection of civilians not only the morally good thing, moral thing to do, but it's a smart thing to do.
I understand you make use of what is called a Civilian Casualty Tracking Provisional Group, or CCTPG. Can you explain to us, what this group consists in, and what are the benefits of using such a unit in the conflict area?
Thank you. Essentially, when we approached the military for the first time, our first contact with was with the civil military cooperation unit of the armed forces, or J9, how it's called in the military terms. And they became our champions in this project, and that's why essentially this project was created as a really small group in terms of numerical dimension. There were just several officers stationed over there near the front line with the authorities to collect the information from the other units, from other structures or military structures, or those structures which are subordinate to the commander of the operation, in order to have a comprehensive picture of what is going on. At the same time, we tried to build the connections with the international organizations which do the recording of civilian harm, so that the military could triangulate this information, their sources, the international organizations, and of course what civilians report themselves. In this way, this really small group produced so-called storyboards, which is a very, very simple product or analytical product with all the information regarding every incident, and then they process this storyboard into monthly reports, into 3 months reports, into annual reports for consideration of the commander. So that's essentially how it looked like, and now we have managed to change it a bit into the direction of this group being elevated. Like earlier, it was like a separate unit stationed aside from the HQ or from the staff of the operation. Now it is transferred right to the staff of the operation, so-called Joint Forces Operation in Donbass, and it has become the integral part of this staff.
Well, thank you. My final question would be a little bit about what are the next steps for Civic beyond Ukraine and the Sahel? Are there any other armed conflicts you'd like to monitor or considering to expand your activity?
Thank you. We work already in many areas where the armed conflict, unfortunately, bring these numbers of civilian casualties and civilian harm, like in Yemen and in Iraq, Nigeria, and we work in Ukraine. We think about like multi-tier approach in terms of choosing the ways how we're going to work. Either it could be a sort of a more research like stuff when we want to explore the situation, and then depending on the results of the research, we usually take a decision whether it makes sense to like deploy a full-scale project. And that's how, for instance, it happened in Ukraine. Like first it was research, then the full-scale project. And we also work with peacekeeping operations, like in Africa. And now we have launched a new big-scale project in Eastern Africa, in Kenya and Uganda, with also focus on Somalia. And that's pretty much like where we want to work, these countries which I mentioned.
Well, thank you very much, Sergii, for your answers as well. We also, of course, wish your team good progress. We're going to have to bring the 2021 Innovation Prize Awards ceremony to a conclusion at this stage. But allow me, of course, to congratulate again and thank for their participation the winning teams here, all the viewers who participated in the discussion in the webinar. Of course, also congratulations to our 3 prize draw winners. We want to thank everyone really who has joined us online today for this event. Ambassador, of course, in particular, Ambassador Thomas Greminger and Professor Nayef Al-Rodhan in their role, of course, in presiding the jury to award this prize. Thank you also, of course, to the Geneva GCSP staff who've made this online event possible. Everyone worked very hard the last few days to bring this together. Also, thank you should be said to, of course, people who participated in the prize, also as competitors, organizers, jury members, and so on. So, of course, congratulations on all your hard work. We look forward to seeing you again very soon. And so wherever you're following us, according to the time, I wish you a nice day or evening. And it will be goodbye from us at the GCSP in Geneva. See you very soon again. Bye-bye.